Send it. Alright, so it's sampler time again. I had originally not intended to do another one of these quite yet, but I got it in my head that I wanted to play some DS stuff, so here we are. Starting with something I do know a bit that I've been meaning to play again, as I never finished it. From the Abyss is a bit of an interesting one, and I'll let it mostly make its own sense as we get there. Just gonna quickly zip us through character creation right quick. Walking through a forest. Supposed to suppress monsters. I mean, I would just do that, yeah. Don't have any reasons, don't need reasons. I don't like cities, I'm not much for water, so the mountains. Guy's dying. It'd be kind of a waste of water to give a dying man water. When they phrase it as gravely wounded and he can't move on his own, his odds of surviving are terrible. His stuff will do more for me than they will for him. Town's on the other side of a lake. Lake road around the lake's real long. I mean, finding a ship would probably take a while. You know how I do. Straight across. Quite literally the second I've started, there's a Discord ping. Of course there is. Yeah, as usual with these samplers, we will be stopping each game at a half an hour to an hour, depending on how well it's going. You know, business as usual. I forgot the kind of odd look that the queen had on her face like the entire time. There's something just a little off with that expression, and I can't put my finger on it. I mean, technically I could because we have a touchpad, but she's on the top screen, so you can't really touchpad the top screen. But yeah, this place is getting ruined by demons, and they need all the help they can get is basically the byline here. As usual with these, I'm going to be flying through plots and texts. That's the most important thing that just happened there, is we now have the ability to capture monster souls and gain skills from them. That's the main thing you're going to want to keep in mind with this one. Beyond that, it's just straight on out the gate for us, because we got to go get to work. And this lady here is going to give us our main important information. Interesting. So that does work. So if I hold the button down, turns out it skips the text a lot faster. And yeah, that's the whole thing, is these gates lead to parallel worlds and all kinds of weird things. That's why they respawn, is what they're using as their excuse for respawning anyway, is the fact that everything's different worlds, quote unquote. Even if you go to the same level, it's technically parallel dimensions of the same world. I mean, theoretically, there's gotta be something at the helm of all of this, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. No point getting to know somebody if they're just gonna go through the gate and die. Yeah, Abyss 1 Stage 1, here we go. As you can see, it's a top-down action RPG. Not dissimilar from something like the old Secret of Mana or anything like that, though we don't have a charge system in this one. Now, important thing we need to do immediately is actually slot the skill in over here. Because without any of those slotted in, you can't use them. And the layouts are random, from what I recall. And based on my little test play, that seems to be holding true. And we've already stolen our first skill, Dominator. You have immediate access to them, but notice the tag sword to this. Most of the skills have weapon tags to them. You can't use it unless you're using the right weapon. Since we're using a sword, we can use Dominator, which just lets us spin. Why a slime thing has the ability to spin, I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're just here to do our job. Now, important couple things. You'll notice I lowered the health of that slime before trying to capture it. This is why. Hang on, I need to actually line it up. That orange meter, when it fills, cancels the attachment. The meter will fill faster the more health the monster has and how much of a level difference there is between you and the monster you're trying to capture the soul of. Like, even with it nearly dead, you'll notice I'm losing this fight no matter how hard I mash. So, that's a thing. That's how that works, by the way, is it's a mashing duel between you and the monster. If you can mash the button fast enough, you can take its soul. If you can't, you can't. We're poisoned, which is inconvenient, but I'm not really gonna worry over that too much, because it clears reasonably quickly. We're just in stage 1, so I don't have super much to worry about. Do a quick spin to keep his friends at bay. You'll notice they don't have a contact hitbox as long as you keep them hit stunned, which is kind of interesting. You can just kind of bully them. Extra potion, always good. But yeah, for those of you that were here when I did Shining Soul, this was the other game I was trying to remember when I was doing Shining Soul. And as always, do let me know if the volume and such is okay. As far as I can tell, it's fine. It stays a decent bit behind my audio, so it should be balanced enough, but, you know, just, as always, just say the word and it'll get lowered, or if it needs to be. I also could have checked in with all the people in town, but we'll do that later, when we actually have a use for the people. We've gained a level, so we should be able to steal your soul now. There we go. Crush Hammer. We can't use that because it's an axe skill. This is as much as I did when I did my quick test earlier. So, we are the red dot. The exit's the blue dot. Where we're supposed to be going is the green dot, but we don't know where it is. Let's go this way. There we go. We do want to clear out everything along the way, considering they could potentially drop items and we need all the experience we can get right now. Because I don't remember this game being especially hard, but it also isn't easy either. Antidote will be handy. Now, the main thing I need to remember is just to keep an eye on my spacing. It's also worth noting that I never finished this, and I think I said that already, but just in case, I'm gonna make sure that that's clear. So, it may get bad later, kind of like how Shining Soul's ending was kind of a nightmare. Once we have other more useful skills, I'll get more in-depth about chaining them and everything, but honestly, Dominator's not that strong. Like, it's not bad, it's a good, like, 3-hit guaranteed attack, pretty much. Good. There's nothing really to write home about. Of course, I scratched my face for just a second and he immediately bounced out of my attack and hit me. To no one's surprise. There we go, level 3. That's the main thing I wanted. Because I figure if I get ahead by a level before we leave this stage that we're on, we should be able to grab the soul of whatever's next. If there even is anything different on the next floor of this stage. And I figure people are going to immediately know whether they like this or not based on what they're seeing already. I feel like it's understood that this would be a safe bet that, oh hey, this game looks like this right away. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be how it's gonna be the entire game. Because it basically is. There's some equipment variables and things like that, and of course, the plethora of skills to be had. Which is what caught my eye with this game, is being able to steal skills instead of having to grind levels to get skills. There we go. I don't know about anybody else, but very rarely have I ever found a character in any game that has had only skills I'm interested in. Like, invariably they have one stinker of a skill somewhere in there that just disappoints me. This way I have access to every skill in the game, as long as I'm willing to go get it. Remember what I was talking about with spacing? Yeah. Guess who immediately forgot to do anything of the sort and ran straight into the middle of an army? I'll give you a hint, it's the guy who just nearly died. Give me that. Typhoon. Okay, that might be a good one. Certainly not the skill I expected to get. I'm at SP. Okay, this is fine. Oh, Typhoon's a bow skill, so that's useless. Okay, it's double tap to use an item. Okay. And we did get some ore, so that might be useful. You might not be able to see the bottom screen super well because it's a little on the small side, but if a game is primarily relying on the bottom screen, which I think one or two of the things I have on the lineup might, I will switch them so that you see the bottom screen primarily. I do have you set up for both. Need be. It'll just be a matter of switching the inputs around, which really won't be much trouble at all. Until then, we beat up more of the killer tomatoes. I could use a potion, but I don't really feel like I need to. Not yet, anyway. I'm anticipating instant karma for saying a foolish thing like that, but you know. If I didn't say things that got myself in trouble, what would I do? The sound effects are going to get repetitive. There's just not really anything to do about that. That's just the nature of how this type of game works. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just kind of like do what I do when I play something like this and just start kind of tuning them out after a while. Not what I meant to do, but you know what? That's fine. Which, that's a thing I forgot to point out. Let me demonstrate that again right quick. You can get health and/or SP back by draining an enemy with soul capture. Like that. So it's actually kind of helpful to keep soul capturing even if you already have the skill that something gives. Unfortunately, even soul capture needs some SP, so that's not ideal. You know, maybe I should make use of a potion finally. There we go. I suppose I should stop being stubborn and actually keep myself alive, huh? Because I'm pretty sure you only get those 3 pages of items anyway. So eventually we're gonna run out of space if I don't use anything. And you can definitely tell this is a DS game because it makes use of the touchpad. In all actuality, I agree with using the touchpad for something like the menu. Like for using the items down here. I wholeheartedly agree with an idea like that because it saves me having to open a separate menu and stop everything constantly in order to use my items. A saint statue. For those that didn't catch it when we were being given our tutorial, the saint statue is how we get out of here without making it to the end. That room's a dead end. There might be a treasure chest in there, but I don't know how interested I am. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's stat points and everything I should be spending. We'll just go ahead and do one of those. Bit of that, bit of that. There we go. My usual maximum aggression technique. Now if we walk over and hit these things, you'll notice a pretty drastic difference in how much damage we're dealing. And I believe our starting statistics were determined by the answers we gave to the questions at the beginning. Another SP potion. Let's see what's up here, and I do see that there's a path to the right, so we'll turn around need be. In some ways, you could probably also compare this to like a mystery dungeon game, though I don't know how applicable a comparison like that actually is. Considering mystery dungeon games are typically closer to a roguelike than an action RPG, but there are some that kind of blur the lines between. So, you know. Think of that how you will. The main difference, I suppose, in a case like this is we keep our level when we die. Or, I should say, we keep everything we had when we went in. There we go. That's a better sword, so we'll immediately slap that on. And mind you, that's based on what I'm remembering. Because if I remember right, dying in this causes a proper game over and you have to load your save. But I don't know that for a fact because I haven't died yet recently. And I haven't touched this basically for a similar amount of time to a lot of the things I bring up that I've played in the past. You know, the usual like, oh yeah, it's been like 10 years. Here's give or take. Okay, so I got another saint statue for walking all the way over here and nothing else. That probably wasn't worth it. Also, I might be imagining it, but I think raising our agility's made us move faster. Not certain about that one. I may just be making that up. It would not be the first time I've managed to gaslight myself about being able to move faster in a game. Primarily due to wishful thinking, probably. That would make the most sense. Also, I know that the other screen of the DS is blocking a chunk of the chat box. Don't worry too much about that. That's the only place I could really fit it. So that's where it went. Everybody's messages in the chat will still end up represented in that higher section of the chat box eventually anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. Hey, big guy. Every move you make makes a lot of noise. Pity for you, you're still just as easy to bully as the rest of them. Gallop Lancer. We'll take a look at that once I've cleaned out the enemies here. So I would assume that's a spear skill, since I think spears do exist in this game. And I suppose I should at least take a look at all the skills while we're collecting them. Yeah, Gallop Lancer, Spear, charge at the enemy real fast. Focus your energy to deliver one large blow with the axe. And fire 3 arrows at once, split shot. For Typhoon. Now, I do have a fairly interesting, I would like to think, mix of games for today. So hopefully it ends up being enjoyable. We'll see how it actually pans out. Because I tried not to stick to one genre at all today. There are some genre duplications, but that's just because that's what's available. Well, both that's what's available and that's what caught my eye. For obvious reasons. Like, I left plain, like, point-and-click adventure games and things like that off the table for today. Because I felt like a half an hour to an hour really just wouldn't do those kind of games any favors. I'm kind of dancing the edge of that one with the fact that there's some RPGs on the list for today, if I get to those. Because obviously priority is going to be going to things that will get to the point quickly. Because anything that takes forever to get to the point of what the game's meant to be or meant to do isn't going to work for a sample set, so those get bottom billing. I also tried to prioritize games I didn't hear anybody talking about, like, ever. Which, that wasn't that hard to do when you consider the DS library. Because maybe it's just me, but outside of a very small handful of games, I never hear anything about any DS games, like, at all. It's kind of unfortunate that way. We'll just start using these because I'm already halfway through the second page of items. I should just use things. Doesn't matter. All the high ground in the world ain't gonna save you, big guy. But yeah, you can tell this is the first stage because nothing in here has presented itself as a meaningful, credible threat. Let's go ahead and try the training spear out. You'll notice I can now not use Dominator at all. But if I slot in Gallop Lancer, I can use it. And this is your spear attack set. Poke, poke, poke. As you'd expect. But like different idle animations and everything, so it's worthwhile. I don't know how much damage it does with the cursor off screen. And we're dead. And that's why trying different things can be a dangerous idea. And since we never saved, everything's gone. But I did that partially as a demonstration, partially as I hit the wrong button at the wrong time and got bodied. So we'll just hop right back in and pretend that didn't happen. Because it'll be quick enough to just speed through the dialogue. As you can see, that didn't take long at all. The longest part's gonna be running back through the parts of the stage we already went through. And even that I'll be able to do quicker because I'm not gonna sit there and farm. We're just gonna go. And I do have a fast forward button at my disposal. You know, for some reason I thought her dialogue was shorter. But I think it's because I was busy discussing things while her dialogue was happening. So brain didn't even really process it. But this way you'll get to see the fact that these stages are different. I am still gonna kill along the way, I'm just not gonna, like, kill everything. But let that be a lesson. Don't get greedy. If you push your luck in the middle of a set of monsters, you can and will die even on stage 1. Those stabby boys in particular, I remember being some of the most dangerous early enemies. Exactly. And thank you for the resub, Pazzy. How you been, buddy? How it goes? Alright, I didn't even slot Soul Capture back in after the demonstration death. There you go, just slide that over there. That's fair. The weekend is almost always too short. But I'm glad you had a good time. Pull the map back up. Everything today is on the DS. That's why there's the second screen on screen there. Nope, I think we're still too low level to do that. We'll just leave that alone. Well, yeah, it's going to seem similar to a lot of titles, especially from the PS1 era, since it's fairly simple and visually it matches, like, take for example, it's along a similar line, though less detailed than, say, Legend of Mana. Though it functions similarly in terms of how some of the statistics and such work. Which I keep meaning to do something with the Steam version of Legend of Mana, but I keep not pulling the trigger on doing that idea because it's going to be a long haul. And actually, the capture system is somewhat, like, I guess you could compare it to Brave Fencer Musashi as well. That's another one. Yeah. I mean, Legend of Mana isn't, like, RPG long, but it's decently lengthy. I think it would be somewhere in the 20 to 30 hour range. So unless I did it multiple days in a week, it would be like a month's worth at a minimum. And I just don't know how well my own attention will stay on that, let alone the audience's attention. So just kind of kicking that one back and forth. Especially since, much like this, there would be some grinding involved. Either on or off-screen grinding. There we go. Try to at least rebuild our collection of skills in case we pick up different weapons. And this is a good room to clean out because there's a good amount of them. In my case, it would almost always be scheduled days for it, because especially for something that long, I would hate it by the time the week was over. Like, guaranteed. The most I'd be able to probably do is fit it in like 2 days during that week before I get sick of dealing with it. Is as much as I like Legend of Mana, it isn't exactly something that holds me long-term consistently anymore. Like, obviously there will be exceptions to that, because there are definitely games I've managed to stream like 3 or 4 days back to back because it just works that much for me, but it will always be a variable situation. Which is the wonder to the fact that my schedule is kind of back to being open instead of the way I started to frame it as being a bit more specific. Though realistically, I probably should put it back to being a little more limited again instead of full open like it is now, but it's working. But between the occasional spontaneous collab and the fact that I could suddenly gain a key from Lurkit or end up picking up something spontaneously that I decide I want to do, it really kind of becomes problematic to keep a set thing going. Yeah. Like, I'm much more satisfied just rolling on my whims, which is how we've ended up here today, for example. Because sure, people like to have things they can expect to see, but I don't know. that same kind of attachment that people seem to end up with to coming in and seeing the same thing again. Like, I understand the attraction to the familiarity of it, but just meh. That ain't me. Go ahead and at least re-equip Dominator, because it is a skill I can at least use. Back the map. I do kind of wish that the shoulder buttons would let me cycle those tabs instead of having to touchpad it, but, you know, it's DS. It's going to require the touchpad. Pretty much. And I'm sure at some point I'll end up going back to something more structured, but at the very least for now, this is working better. Because I gotta say, when I was trying desperately to find things that fit into, like, insert genre here for each individual day of the week, it was killing me after a while to try to do that. In part because I was running out of things in those genres sometimes, and in part just because it was so much extra work. Like, it was a lot of extra work without it really being a big payoff, for lack of a better way of putting it. So that's just all out the window at this point. And one day I'll actually redo the Twitch schedule to reflect that. When that day will be, sometime, somewhere, somehow. Because in the vaguest sense, that schedule is still accurate. For more than just the fact that, yes, I work on this Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like, the most structured thing I have right now is our Saturdays, since that's pretty much been set in stone to be one of two things fairly consistently. Okay, we almost died in the same room again, which would have been hilarious and upsetting. There we go. We'll just leave that room. The one real downside to that death is we no longer have the nicer sword, we don't have the spear, we don't have the ore. Yeah, that's also an accurate point to that whole situation. There's only so much time in the day and so much energy to do with. So the more levels of organization you add to things, and the more requirements, the less possible it gets. And I'll be honest, I don't think I ever really saw any significant benefit from having structure to my schedule anyway. I don't think I noticed even the slightest real difference in how anything played out, whether I had the schedule structured or not. Like, at first, it had its advantage of, I know what I need to do now, but I think that's about the extent of the benefit it really had. At face value, there were times where it seemed like it was affecting the numbers, but I think that may have just been actually more of a case of what day of the week it was, not what the schedule said it was. I do kind of want to clear out more of the the stabby boys and the ogres in the hopes of getting some of the ore back, because I remember ore being important. Because I seem to recall there's actually a decent crafting system to be had. It's either a crafting or an upgrading system, or both. I just do not remember because it's been so long. Okay, there's the iron ore. That's honestly probably the more important one of the two, so that's fine. RSP potions. I feel like it's a situational thing. Like, becoming known for something kind of ties you to that. Like, if it being a specific game on a specific day kind of attaches it harder than having a concept or a genre attached to a day. Like, you take these people that specifically, like, specialize in playing Valorant or Overwatch, as soon as they aren't playing that, or something close enough to that, they're going to lose people because there are people that are there only for that. And they'll just go watch somebody else who's playing it. Like, that's always the dance that happens there. But personally, I've generally been of the opinion if people are going to wander off just because you're not playing the game they like, they probably weren't going to be that consistent to begin with. So I don't know if that's something you'd really want to rely on anyway. It's far better to cultivate a community that is there for the people that are there. That's a lot slower and a lot harder, but it's definitely more viable long term. I mean, that's also an option, yeah. There's nothing saying you can't do both. Like, at the end of the day, the wonderful thing about being a streamer is you can do whatever the fuck you want. It just becomes a matter of what actually ends up working. But that's absolutely what a lot of people already do, is, like, they guarantee community days on insert day here, and anything of that sort. Which that, in and of itself, has some decent legs to it. Especially for something like a community day, that one you actually do want to have fairly set down, because this way people can actually make sure to be there for it. A community day with no community kind of doesn't work. Yeah, this is the boss room. I've got a bunch of potions. I should be okay. And there goes a bot again. Problem is, I didn't get a better sword. And I think returning this way just takes us back to the stage before. Yeah, that's what the return points do. I'm gonna play it safe. Insane statue out. Because I don't remember if it lets you come back in at this point, or if you have to go back through the whole place. But now is as good a time as any to show off the NPCs and everything. Whose dialogue I'm not really going to be reading because we have a time limit, but they hold items here and you can save the game here at the inn. And you do heal when you leave the dungeon. You don't have to worry about that. Yes, yes, well, you named your shop after yourself because you're that creative. Yeah, you can get a full set of basic weapons here, which is handy. You can even buy skills, which is impressive. And he's got a good selection of them. Typical items, armor. Only one accessory, but it's a good accessory. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because these are all people you can talk to. I don't think any of them have any actual mechanical benefits. Yeah, here at the information center, I might be able to learn what I'm trying to figure out. Yes, I know how to use items. That's not the question I wanted to ask. Okay, you're not gonna help me at all. Alright, we're not gonna get to the point where we're gonna see crafting then, so I'm gonna just sell those ores. Because they're worth a decent amount as well, so that works out just as well as if I made something out of them. We could just go straight up to the Iron Blade. And since we saw a Copper Blade on our way here, the Iron Blade probably would be the purchase to make. Because otherwise we'll buy the Copper Blade and just find another one as soon as we bought it, so there'd be no point. There we go, put the upgrades on. Get rid of the predecessors. And that should make a massive difference for us. Okay, yeah, you can go back to the stages you've been already. So we can just go straight to the boss. And you'll notice they give you a saint statue every time. Because they're basically putting one there to guarantee you can get out if you sprint here too quickly. Bulking Minotaur. Rawr, 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 rawr. He's got a nice big health bar and everything. Okay, yeah, he hits really hard. That's what I was afraid of with this idea. And he's got more reach than you might think. We're gonna have to take this kind of carefully. Basically bait him out to attack. And then wash, rinse, repeat until he's done. I think I did forget to spend points, didn't I? Sure did. That'll help. I knew we weren't hitting him as hard as we should have been for having an iron sword. Yeah, that's a bit more meaningful. And he doesn't hit as hard anymore. So we can kind of just brawl a little bit, since we have so many potions. And there we go. First try. We absolutely could have taken him without the weapon upgrade, but it would have taken longer. And we get Steel Axe. So if you wanted to start playing with the axe skills, you can. As you can see, it attacks very similarly to the sword, just a lot slower. But just so people get to see it. This is what Crush Hammer looks like. You spin and slam the axe into the ground. It's a thing. Yeah, that's the end of stage 1, and completely. But yeah, because we did that, things happened. And that's an important part. We can now skip past the Minotaur anytime we go back in. You can obviously refight the Minotaur as many times as you want. And of course, since we were given 1,000, if we wanted to, we could buy an even better sword and all kinds of things like that. Even better armor. You'll notice his inventory's changed as well. Like, there's better potions and all kinds of good things like that. We could also learn some magic. In fact, I think I will actually grab Bullet Fire. Because I don't think that's the one you get from the things we'll be fighting here in a moment. So for sake of showing a little bit of magic off as well, we can do that. But since we didn't die, we got to learn that she's called Helen, so that's a thing. Now, take note of the fact that this is level 1, but the rest of these don't have levels to them. I forget exactly what the significance of that is, but just keep that in mind. Yeah, as you'd expect, bullet fire is just you throw a little bullet of fire. Burn! Our magic isn't as high as our physical stats, so it's obviously not going to be anything impressive. But it's handy to mix into your attacks because you can just cast it while you're moving and attacking, so... It can be a good trick to pull at a moment's notice. Especially right now, where we don't have a lot else to spend our SP on, unless I want to keep using Dominator. Which it really doesn't do a ton for us, so... It's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen the other there. You stand still and be absorbed. Backstep. I remember backstep actually being useful. Is it just straight up you backslide when you hit the button? You can't backslide out of your attacks, so you do still need to have an opening between attacks to get out of the way. But it can be useful for avoiding certain attacks that you otherwise wouldn't be able to avoid because you have to turn around. It is, of course, you know, nothing exciting, but it's useful. And as a blessing and curse, enemies don't drop different skills that I remember. They only have the one skill you can learn from them. It's a blessing and a curse in that you don't have to worry about random drop of skills, meaning you don't get the skills that you want, but it also means that as soon as you steal a skill off an enemy, you know exactly what you're gonna get every time. So, depends on how you feel about that, really, at that point. Training spear. That let us down before, so I ain't playing that game again. It is a little weird that the big ogre with club drops a spear and teaches a spear skill. Learning the spear skill from it makes a degree of sense because it does charge forward. And you just apply that to use a spear to charge forward instead of charging forward with a club. But like, why is it using the club if it's got a spear? I guess the spear's too small for it? It's a weird situation. You also probably figured out by now that the different bag colors that drop out of enemies mean different things. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. Especially as your inventory fills up, you may want to just pay attention to the bag color. If it's not the right category for what you're looking for, don't bother picking it up. Make your life a lot simpler. You can also aggressively backstep like that. Just slide back to the enemy, just spin around and hit them. Not necessarily as good an idea as backstepping away, but it can be used that way. I'm pretty sure it skips like a frame or two. It's not really hyper useful, but it's a thing. And if you're thinking I backstepped into him because I forgot which button I attached to what, that's a much more honest answer, but you know. Turn your mistakes to your advantage where or and when you can. I was hoping to find like one more enemy before the hour was up, but it's looking like we ain't gonna get that. Honestly, that would make a degree of sense. It's just their own little toothpick. Oh hey, speaking of toothpicks, I found a copper sword. How's it going now? Which would be more shocking, them using their disadvantage to their advantage, or them pressing an advantage they had? I feel like them using a disadvantage to turn into a positive would be more surprising. Fair. Everything's alright so far now. Glad to hear you're doing well. Oh, there's leather clothes to replace the ones I already bought. What a shame. But this game's about out of time, so statue away. I'm not sure why I'm going to bother saving the progress here, because if we do pick this up in the future, we will be starting back over for sake of keeping a consistent narrative there, but